I have announced effective immediately, we will draw down 700 people effective today.
Semi-literate ogre.
700 people.
Success or the failure, as he sees it, of operations in the city.
Well, during the course of that press conference, he announced the drawdown, 700, leaving, he said, roughly 2,000 federal agents here on the ground. Their goal, eventually, he says, is to get down to the original footprint, which was about 150 agents here. But he says that's going to be contingent on not only cooperation, which he says he's getting from state officials, but also
This is how they ended the conference, by the way. Okay, in what way did the conference end?
All right,
I just have a quick clarification on the body cameras.
No more question, guys.
Just a clarification.
Mr. Holman, could you just talk about the targeted list? How big is that list?
Report, though, it's only a misdemeanor.
Cool. He seems happy.
actions, he says, of protesters. He wants them to stop being aggressive towards ICE agents. Now, I did ask him the question because he was bringing up all the arrests that they have made and things that he, making the country safe. He also said, he mentioned not directly, obviously, the killings. And that was what I wanted to ask him about. So take a listen.
Yeah, I think I just listed a bunch of people we took off the streets of the Twin Cities. So I think it was very effective as far as public safety goes. Was it a perfect operation? No. No. And I just told you, we created one unified chain of command, make sure everybody's on the same page, make sure we beat conflicting targets, and making sure we follow the rules. And I'm not saying anybody, I don't think anybody purposely didn't do something they should have done. I'm saying that I brought a different set of eyes on this. I've done this for a long time. We made this operation more streamlined, and we established a unified chain of command. So everybody knows what everybody's doing.
Does anyone know if Preddy's death was ruled as a homicide legally or just the autopsy? No, in the autopsy, not like charges have been brought. Just like with regard to determining cause of death, which I guess you would expect, but that's not always the case after somebody dies in a police shooting, is my understanding. Like basically like the coroner determining that the cause of death was a homicide is like a step one to a broader like criminal charge. But sometimes I could be wrong on this, actually. Somebody could correct me, I'd appreciate it. But oftentimes like a coroner will say like, oh, the cause of death was a bullet or something, but not say a homicide. And what that means is that the coroner doing the autopsy is basically saying like the conditions of this death don't necessarily suggest that the death was unwarranted. Does that make sense? Yeah. And
keep in mind there with that answer, he's treading lightly. He was not trying to criticize Bavino when Bavino was...
Wait, hold on 1 second. I have to... Come on, Bosch. You categorically have not covered this prime piece of content. What the fuck are you talking about? That's not what categorically means.
The operations here. Bavino was removed and Homan was put in place to take over operations here in Minnesota. So walking a fine line, obviously quick to say yes, that he believes it was a success, but he didn't mention directly the two deaths of Renee Good and Alex Preddy, but saying it was not perfect, talking about that, but he didn't elaborate.
He did not elaborate, but I thought the way you phrased the question, has this operation been a success, was really...
That's only true when there's a possible alternate cause like a heart attack, but not when he's shredded by 10 bullets. I swear to God, I remember reading at some point, it was years ago, so maybe it's not relevant or it varies state by state, that sometimes a coroner will, in their autopsy, not rule homicide, even if it was definitely caused by being shot to death, but rather talk about the death being more like a, they'll speak about it more neutrally. I'm not entirely sure. I could be wrong.
Omar, and his answer was interesting. And like you said, he kind of threaded the needle there. What is it like on the streets? I mean, Governor Walz is still talking about how, although there's less smoke on the ground, there's still quite a bit of anxiety in the air, especially in places like schools. I mean, especially after the story of little Liam Ramos being detained with his father. What is the atmosphere on the streets right now?
Well, listen, I talked to the principal at Valley View Elementary, and he says this is traumatizing not only for the families that are being affected, but also the schools and the community. He was telling me that kids are smart. You know, in the case of Liam and his classmates, they know something's wrong. They know that something's not right. And the activists here have told me that they're not going to stop protesting. When I asked them
It's
about...
going to be really interesting to see if the city of Minneapolis gets more blue in the coming decade as young people who remember, like, the terror of, like, early 2026. You know, they were in schools, people were being disappeared, being picked up by big, like, bands of parents to try to, like, protect their kids or whatever. All that stuff, you know, permanently negatively polarized against Republicans. We'll have to see, I guess. Either way, big win that they are pulling out in that way. See more from the press
This
conference.
morning, White House border the Twin Cities area. This is Homan's second week.
Our Tom Home going down that information.
Press
On the
conference.
violence, the rhetoric, and the attacks against ICE and Border Patrol.
No, we don't believe in watching the press conference. To be honest, I don't like watching him speak either. Well, what are you going to do, huh? What can you do? My favorite little, like, anecdote, my little piece of information that I find particularly charming with regard to the ongoing ICE operations in Minnesota. Though, come to think of it, I don't actually know if this happened in Minnesota. Shocking federal court moment. DOJ attorney Julie Lay says, quote, "The system sucks. This job sucks," to Judge Jerry Blackwell, who pressed her on why so many court orders are being ignored by ICE/the Trump admin. She asked to be held in contempt just so she could get 24 hours of sleep. Fucking phenomenal. And also completely unprecedented. Thank you. Incredible. Jesus Christ. It was in Minnesota. Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. It's like a Onion article, man. It's a joke. She got fired? Of course she got fired. What other outcome could possibly come from that? God bless her. I hope she has a you know, promising career in the private sector, I suppose, or perhaps the public sector in the future. She and her colleagues in the local U.S. Attorney's Office were completely overwhelmed with the number of cases they had been forced to handle because of the White House widespread immigration to Minnesota. At one point, she sardonically told the judge she'd welcome being held in contempt if she could get a good night's sleep. Oh, my God. Miss Lay's painfully personal remarks came as the judge, Jerry W. Blackwell, was grilling her about why she and other prosecutors had ignored his orders in 5 separate cases to free immigrants he had determined were illegally detained by federal agents. "What do you want me to do?" Miss Lay asked the judge at one point. What, like... Why the fuck can the federal government get away with continually violating these judges' orders? Like, at what point do you stop just asking for more answers from the DOJ and start sending marshals? Like, what's the point? Like, why should the DOJ even send people to these judges if they're just going to provide no information and ignore everything? You know? Like, at what point do the judges go, like, okay, it's time to start issuing warrants? Ms. Lay works as a lawyer for Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, volunteering in January to join the U.S. Attorney's Office in Minnesota to handle the deluge of cases filed by immigrants challenging their arrest by federal agents. Over the next several weeks, she found herself overseeing about 90 immigration cases. Oh my God. The DOJ, DHS, and ICE are not above the law, Judge Blackwell said. Except apparently they are, because they keep breaking the law and nothing happens. Like, no matter what. My understanding was that when people broke the law, they get arrested. I guess that's only the case for, like, regular people and not for agents of the state. Like, you can't try to aura farm off shit like this when you're on your, like, 57th consecutive telling to hearing where you bring them over and say, "Oh, just you wait. Oh, ignore my orders just 37 more times and you'll see." Oh. Trump says he ordered immigration officials' ranks reduced in Minnesota and that a softer touch may be needed. Asked during an interview with NBC News of Border Czar Tom Homan's announcement that roughly a quarter of federal immigration officers deployed to Minnesota to be pulled came from, Trump responded, "Yes, it did. But it didn't come from me because I just wanted to do it," the president added. What? But it didn't come from me because I just wanted to do it, the president added.
Mr. President, speaking of Minneapolis, what did you learn?
Oh my God, picture in picture in picture in picture. Holy shit, look at this, man.
I learned that maybe we can use a little bit of a softer touch, but you still have to be tough. These are criminals. We're dealing with really hard criminals. But look, I've called the people. I've called the governor. I've called the mayor, spoke to them, had great conversations with them, and then I see them ranting and raving out there, literally as though a call wasn't made.
Wonderful. All right, well, I'm still taking this as a complete retreat from Minnesota. Well, not a complete retreat, obviously. A big retreat. Bigly. How could you not, you know?